lattes in that job.
I have people ask me about different projects, different vehicles that we've worked on throughout the channel's history and stuff, and where some of them are and what we're doing with some of them, when some of them's coming back. So today we're going to do a complete car rundown of all the vehicles here. Some of them you may have never seen before. Some of them you may have wondered what happened to them, and we're going to run down all of them, where they are, what's going on with them, and when you might possibly see more from them. So let's get in. First off, let's talk about the 1967 Mercury Cougar that we have here. You see me throw this car together in a couple of days in a frenzy kind of thing, and it's actually been just stupid reliable. Yeah, let's talk about this one. First off, if you have not went back and seen the videos, please do. There's a bunch of videos on this car, including the first time we brought it home. But the basic rundown is the car is about 90% complete. There's a few little details that need to be done. I got to put trim around the back window. I have the parts to rebuild the front suspension, but I haven't done it yet. Yeah, there's not much. When it rains hard, there's a little leak inside, and that doesn't do it. It's weird because there's no water inside when it's driving down the road, but if it rains overnight, there'll be a little puddle in the floorboard. So I got to find where that leak is. My suspicion is that there's a hole in the cowl down there somewhere, so I need to find out. But this car, I have put in the last 6 months or so since I threw this car together, and I did say threw it together because I frantically threw it together in a couple of days, and you can go back and watch the video from about September-ish of last year and see that. I mean, I'd have to look, somewhere around 3,000, 4,000 miles on this, 3,000 or 4,000 miles on this thing in the last 6 months. I really do daily drive this car. This car is dead nuts reliable. The gas hand will lie to you just a smidgen, but it's partially my fault for letting it get that low to start with. The car is just dead nuts reliable. It starts every time, it goes, I can't see anything bad about it. This car is just a good sound car. You will see it again on the channel, because again, we got to rebuild the front suspension, and there's a few little nagging things that I want to do. The exhaust on it, for one, it sounds good and it works and it functions, but it's a pretty short exhaust, which is fine, but I didn't put any hangers in there. So if you hit one of our famous potholes right here, about a 3-bedroom 2-bath, if you hit one of them, you will hear the exhaust rattle a little bit. So I want to do that before it breaks something under there. But for the most part, this car is ready to go. I drive the car everywhere. I put a lot of miles on this car. It's my go-to every day. I get in, turn the key, it cranks up every morning and runs like a dream. And very, very pleased with this car. So you will see more on this car, but this car is a daily driver and needs a bath right now. It's my fault because I don't let it sit long enough to wash it. But it needs a bath and a couple of little tweaks, but it is just a good car. You can see we done several videos on this car when we brought it home, when we was going to do power tour with it, or not power tour, but drag week with it last year, and there was some debacles there, but I still managed to get the car thrown together in a couple of days for that event. But I ended up taking another vehicle. It's all explained in that video. And then since the drag week thing, I've literally been driving this thing every day. Logged thousands of miles on it, and it's one of my favorite vehicles to drive at the moment. So 1967 Mercury Cougar, this is number one. Number two, 1968 Ford Ranch Wagon. All right, so this is our 68 Ford Ranch wagon. You've seen this on the channel a bunch because honestly, we tried to do a bunch of stuff with it. Something happens every time. This car was built, first off, I bought this car for my wife, and it's 100% her car, and it's 100% my fault that it's not a daily driver at the moment. I do drive it a lot. For several months there, 2 days a week, I drive this car everywhere I go. Had an issue with it a few weeks back, and I have not corrected that issue yet. We'll go into that in a minute. But 1968 Ford Ranch wagon. This does have a 302 in it and a T5 5-speed manual transmission in it. I've got the components to rebuild the rear suspension. The actual laid inside of it, I've got to do that. We're taking this car on Power Tour this year, and we were supposed to take it on Power Tour last year, and we didn't. But we didn't take it last year because there was days it was 110 degrees ambient temperature, and the car has no AC, and it was, yeah, I wasn't doing that. So we're getting it ready again this year. I was driving it a few weeks ago, and there was a part on the front suspension that broke, gave up. I mean, it's 60 years old or 50 years old, so it gave up. So I got to redo the suspension on the car. I got to redo front and rear suspension on the car. Motor wise, it doesn't have that many miles on it, honestly. This thing has maybe 5,000 or 6,000 miles on the motor. Proven combination, runs reliable, and this thing gets like 20, I think it's either 21 or 22 miles per gallon. It is ridiculous the gas mileage it gets. Now it gets that in common for a couple reasons. Combination between the T5 5-speed and the fact it's got a 300 rear gear out back. You got to be running like 70 to even need fifth gear in this. Now, part of me is thinking that I'm going to sacrifice some of the gas mileage and put something like a 410 or something in the back of it, give it some more grunt and make it get out of its own way kind of thing. But it's a good cruising car. I enjoy cruising this car. I enjoy driving this car around. This car just works. It just runs and drives, and it's reliable. There's a few things I got to do, like the suspension we mentioned. The exhaust is horrible under this thing. Not horrible as in sounds. It actually sounds incredibly good, but it's horrible in the fact that when we originally threw this car together, I didn't have any kind of header that would work with that T5 and it, so I cut some headers apart, you know, baked tater welded some pipes together. This was like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, to try to get ready for something the next day, and just gob some stuff together, and there's leaks. There's exhaust leaks in it, and you can hear them, but there's been plenty of time to fix it, but it's not one of those things that really bother me, but it's getting to the point where it's time to fix it. Other than that, the car is pretty solid. I mean, again, I've racked up quite a few miles on this car. It works. It's kind of built out of a hodgepodge of stuff. It's got a red seat in it and a blue seat in it, you know. So it needs a lot of attention, and you're going to see more on this one. You're going to see more of this one on this channel in the next, probably the next video, because again, we're doing Power Tour in this thing, and Power Tour's in like 2 weeks. So I've got to get rolling on this vehicle. So 1968 Ford Ranch wagon. I'm not going in any particular order. I'm just literally walking by stuff, and as I see it sitting here, I'm going to it. And there's going to be at least 4 that you won't see in the video that we'll talk about. I got a lot of project cars going on here, so let's look at this next one. An International Travelall. Let's talk about the Travelall. You've seen this in the background of a bunch of videos, but I've never mentioned it. This is a project that there's some in front of it, and that's the reason it's just been sitting here and not talked about, because if we talk about it, we may want to do something with it right now. And standing here next to it, I wouldn't mind driving it myself, but I've got to be patient. We've got a couple things in front of it. We'll talk about those things that are in front of the Travelall later in the video, but there's at least one truck, if not two trucks, in front of this one that need to get over the finish line before we come back to this one. This one's just kind of sitting here waiting its turn. This is the International Travelall. This one is a you can't call it a full-time four-wheel drive, but you can't call it a regular four-wheel drive either. It has locking hubs on it, so you can take it in and out of four-wheel drive, but on the inside, all you get is a high-low stick. So it kind of is a full-time four-wheel drive and kind of isn't. It's an unusual setup, but we have everything for this thing. The hood is laying in my shop over there. We have the original motor that came out of it. It's 340, and I think it's 345. It's a 345, and it was locked down tighter than a tick's ass, and we got to go through it and do some work to that and get that motor blown apart, and build that motor and get it put back in here. We got new glass for the front of it. We've got the stuff to do it with, but it's one of those things where we haven't actually touched it yet. So once you touch it, there's probably a can of worms there you gotta go through. This thing is a 3-speed on the column. It's just a cool old rig. I have not done any videoing on this thing. I don't think I have not done anything on this vehicle at all. So it is kind of one that's just been sitting in the background. But if you're an International fan, do know at some point there's going to be an International Travelall done on this channel. And guys, I'm going through and showing you all these project vehicles just so you know there is a lot of content coming up, and there is a lot of diversity in the content. It's not all just Fords. Right here is your International Travelall. Cool old International. 1948 Ford Coupe. Do this side because a buddy of mine gets a kick out of this side over here. Not much to say about this one. If you've been around the channel more than 5 minutes, you already know where this one's going. This excuse me, 1948 Ford Coupe. It's nothing but a shell. And although she looks rougher than a stucco bathtub, it's actually straight, and there's actually very minimum rust on it. A little bit around the bottom of the door right there, and the same thing on the other door over there. There's not a lot of rust on it. And the grill, for some reason, out of all the stuff to rot on this thing, the grill is completely rotted in this thing. Everything else is kind of okay. Watching somebody turn around in my driveway. All right, so other than the grill, which is completely rotten on this thing, I don't understand how the grill, out of all things, gets so rotten. The rest of the car is in decent shape for being nothing but a hull. I mean, literally nothing but a hull. There's no suspension under it. There's no floor in it. There's no glass in it. There's no dash in it. It's literally a hull. And I picked this thing up from a scrapyard. It was destined to be crushed. And no, I didn't pay $1,200 for it. That's an inside joke between me and a buddy of mine that was put on there. But the plans with this, from day one, from the moment I saw it, and still is gasser. That's been the plans from day one with this thing, is to build a gasser out of it, and it always has been and always will be the plan with it, and that is what we're going to do with it. But as you can see, we got our plate kind of full, and a personal project is one of those things that kind of has to get pushed away just a little bit to sacrifice for all these other things that need to get done first. I will say this, This year will not end without me doing some kind of content on this car, whether it be getting the frame right for it and getting it ready or what. But before the end of the year, there will be some kind of content on this car, on this 48 Ford. We already have a name for it. We already kind of have a design laid out for it. So the finished product has took many different looks in my head, but we know the general direction we're going. We know the name of the car. We know a lot of that stuff, and we're going to keep it under wraps right now. But just know that there is a 48 Ford Gasser coming at some point this year. Before the end of the year, you will see some kind of content on this. Now, I'm not saying you're going to get to see a running Gasser, but you will see some kind of content on a 48 Ford Gasser, and pretty excited about that. So this is one I've been looking forward to, but when it comes to the grand picture of things, this one needs the most work, therefore this one gets pushed back the furthest, and it is coming. So if you like old school race cars, like old vintage bodies, if you like to see stuff saved from the crusher, whatever your taste is, this one's gonna be for you, and it is coming, so stay tuned for that. Next up, 1979 Firebird. Yeah. So if you go back on the channel, you'll actually see me driving this car. This car, although it looks like this, actually has only been sitting here about a year or so. Drove this car a lot. This was actually the car my daughter drove to high school. She graduated high school, let's see, this is 2023. She graduated high school 3 years ago. She graduated high school 3 years ago, and she decided that for graduation she was going to be a big girl and go out and buy her a car. So she went out and bought her a new car, and this one got left here. Now she still wants to do something with the car, but it got left here. So when she left it here, it sit for a little while, and then I started driving it some. And I actually drove it for a while. You can go back on the channel, I think as little as a year ago. It may have been a year and a half ago or so. I'm driving this car around, but it blew a head gasket. Now, the easy thing to do would be to put a head gasket on it, but it's a 301. You know what I mean? Not really worth the effort to put a head gasket on it. Now, I know there's somebody out there that thinks 301's a good motor, and you, sir, should not be drinking this early in the morning. So I have actually built a fresh engine for it. It's still on the engine stand in there. You've seen it in the background, some of the footage, and actually there's a video on it of me building this engine. It's a 350 4-bolt main, 40 over. Got some I forget what heads they are. I can't just rattle Chevrolet stuff off as good, but it's got a nice Edelbrock intake on it. It's a pretty good motor. Got a decent cam in it, you know, street cam, nothing crazy. I think it's right around a 500 lift cam. It's nothing crazy. So I've got a fresh new engine to go in this car. My daughter still loves this car and she wants to do something with it, so this is going to be a father-daughter project, and you'll see it on the channel again, hopefully before long. Us doing this Firebird. This Firebird, when we got this Firebird, the outside of it looked kind of rough because it's been sitting outside, well, much as it does now. The inside was mint. Now it's got a tear in the seat now, just one small little rip. But this was like a 89,000 original mile car, and she drove it to high school. Now we'll get to why she drove this car to high school a little further along in the video, but yeah, 1979 Pontiac Firebird. You will see more of this car, hopefully, again, coming soon. But this is another project that is sitting here waiting on us to get to it. Oh, we're not done yet. We've got a lot of stuff to make content with. Hang on. How about the Jeep guys, huh? Yeah, 2002 Jeep TJ.
one time we had either 5 or 6 Jeeps here. We were a big Jeeping family back before we started racing with Southeast Gassers, and the Southeast Gassers take so much time up getting the car, keeping the car going and all, and putting money in that and going to races and traveling and all. There's not any time for Jeep stuff. Now, this Jeep in particular was bought by us brand new in 2002. Great Jeep. We have been everywhere. As a matter of fact, the Jeep's got about 300,000 miles on it. We have been everywhere in this Jeep. We have traveled the country in this Jeep. Literally traveled the country in this Jeep. We have been off-roading, off-road trails everywhere. We went places that there's signs up with circles with little lines through us telling us this Jeep can't go, and we went there anyway. And my wife daily drove this out and back to work for a lot of years, and again, blew a head gasket on it. Now this one, the reason the head gasket blew is there actually ended up somehow, mysteriously, a crack in the radiator. The radiators in these things are plastic and kind of happens, but somehow a radiator cracked. My wife did not know it or didn't notice it, and drove it home and just cooked the head gasket. So I have a brand new head on it, brand new head gasket on it. That's already done, and things got in the way and the Jeep never got done. It literally just needs finished assembly. It's been sitting here about a year waiting on me to do finish assembly on it and get it back out there. Now, there's not a whole lot to say about this one as far as future plans. The future plans for this one is just to get it back up and running. I actually have, which they're probably not any good anymore, but I actually have 4 new tires for this thing, to put 4 good tires on it. It already has a 3-inch lift under it. I would like to put a winch bumper on the front of it, but nothing dramatic. It's got a hard top on it now because we tore the soft top in it. This Jeep has off-road, trail road. It's literally been everywhere, as I said before. And we had a lot of fun in this Jeep, and we got a lot of memories in this Jeep. So this Jeep will get done, and that's for you more modern guys that like the more modern stuff, and for you Jeep folks, this is something you'll enjoy seeing. And we got another Jeep too. It's sitting over there, but it's wrapped up in plastic, and as you can see, the sky, I'm not about to unwrap it just for it to start raining and have to wrap it back up. But it's a Jeep CJ7. It was a factory 4-cylinder model, and we built a V8 for it. It's getting a suspension lift put on it. It's getting body work done. It's getting paint. It's basically getting a ground up build. So there's 2 Jeeps coming. That Jeep right there will be done before this Jeep will. Again, just the nature of the beast, things have to get done. So that will be getting done. And sitting here, I'm looking at a project here that I actually forgot I had here. We'll get to that one in a moment too. Let's look at another combination of projects we've got going on here, and we'll talk about where some of this stuff is as we go. I'm going to blur through the next few of them because they're really not anything we're going to do with them at the moment, but they are stuff that things are getting done with. Just more things on the list. So let's look at a few more. Cast your eyes upon this 1965 Ford Mustang shell here. The doors for it are propped up right there, but there's no front clip for it. This is a 1965 Ford Mustang shell. Actually in fairly good shape, other than a rust hole right there. It's in fairly good shape. But none of that matters because this car is getting cut up. This car does not belong to me. This was not my idea. This was not what I was going to do or what I would do with it. But this is what someone else wants to do, and they want to pay me to do it. That Mustang and that S10 Blazer are going to have some kind of weird relationship and going to have a love child. So basically we're taking this is a 4-wheel drive Blazer. We're taking this body off of this, setting that 65 Mustang on it, and we're making a 4-wheel drive Mustang. I'm not going to say anything else about that because yeah, Yeah, see, y'all gonna have to make me famous on YouTube so I don't have to do stuff like this to make money. Now, a lot of y'all will remember this truck. If you go back again, go back in my videos, this is a wrecked unibody that we picked up for a parts truck. And as you can see, we've already started the part process, because you won't notice it so much. You'll have to look real hard to see it. But if you look real close in this area right here, there's something gone there, which will lead to something else you will see. But this thing has been the gift that keeps giving. The doors have been robbed. The little piece right back there has been robbed. Those are extra doors. There's been a few other parts robbed off of this thing, and we have a honeybee colony living in that gas tank that came with the truck, and they're very happy here. Also, if you look how perfect that bed is, yes, it's a unibody, but it's going to get sliced right across there, and that whole back section is going to get used for another project. So this thing is just the gift that keeps on giving, and it just keeps giving and keeps giving and keeps giving. So technically not a project vehicle, but something that's giving a lot of good parts and a lot of good bones to another vehicle that is a project vehicle. Not really much to say here. You see this thing all the time. You see a lot of content on this, and you know the story behind it. There's even a video documenting the full history about it. So I'll kind of skim across this one, but just know it's always going to be present on the channel. All right, so this vehicle is why the Firebird is here. Oh yeah, let's talk about this one. All right, so this was my daughter's first car. It's a 1998 Mustang GT convertible, leather interior. Gosh, it was such a nice car. It was a gorgeous car. You should have seen this thing when I bought it for her. It was absolutely a showroom car. Actually, she won a car show in this car. This car was absolutely immaculate. New, that's a brand new top with a glass back window. Just got nothing else to do with it. Got a brand new $2,800 transmission. Got nothing else to do with it. So here's the deal. My daughter drove this car early in high school. When she got her license, she started driving this car, and she drove this car till sometime in her senior year, when the Firebird came into the picture. Why did the Firebird came into the picture? Because she deleted the front end of this car. How did she delete the front end of this car? Being a teenager with a fast car. This car actually made 318 horsepower. 315 to 318, I can't remember. Barely over 300 horsepower to the rear wheels. That's not astronomical horsepower, but for a 16-year-old girl, I guess it was. This car was healthy, the car ran good, and we love this car. We drove this car all over the place. This car had been to Michigan twice. It literally would go anywhere and run, drive, just, oh, it was such a good car. New stereo system was put in it, and she was coming home from work. She worked at O'Reilly's Auto Parts in the next town down. She was coming home from work, and I got a phone call that she had wrecked her car. She hit a tree with her car coming out of a curve that she was going too fast for. She learned her lesson, I hope. She was going too fast in a curve, hit a tree, and actually it wasn't like it was a great oak or nothing. It was one of those little cedar trees. It was probably 8 foot tall, and might have been 12, 14 inches in diameter. She hit it and actually pushed it up out of the ground. She was hauling when she hit the tree. She doesn't like to admit it. She likes to say she wasn't running that fast, but the tree in the front of this car says otherwise. Now, the car, I actually we had the car towed here, I actually fired the car up and drove it to where it's at right there. So the motor is still good, still runs, transmission was still good. But the only reason I haven't sent it to scrap is freaking motor and transmission is so good in this car. Transmission's new in this car, and the motor was healthy and had a lot of good parts on this motor. I mean, we put a lot of time and effort in this car, and maybe partially my fault. We shouldn't have put that much effort into the car, if you know what I'm saying, for a young person, but we did, and the car sounded healthy. Man, it was just a good car, and I'm just kind of buying my time till the right body comes along that I can pull this motor out of and fix it. I was going to originally put a new front clip on this car and reclip the whole front end of it, but I got looking at it and I thought I could just put fenders and a hood and a core support and all that stuff on, but I got looking at it and both shock tires down in front of them are cracked where they tried to roll under. So pretty much everything from the windshield forward is garbage on this thing, and I don't really want to do a tube chassis convertible Mustang, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's that's how she ended up with a Firebird. And although technically this is not a project car, it is a car that once I find the right vehicle, it's going to be a donor for, because again, we got good leather seats in there. We've got good drivetrain, good 8.8 rear end with disc brakes, posi with disc brakes. I mean, you know, the list goes on and on of good parts on this thing that can be donated for something else. Now, originally, I measured to see if I could put that drivetrain into that Cougar, but that modular motor is so wide, there's no way it's going to fit into an older shock tire car. It's going to have to be something without shock tires. So then the idea was maybe I'll just put that drivetrain into Wayland, but I want Wayland to have that old school period correct feel, so that's not the right vehicle for that. So I've got to come up with something eventually. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what I'll do yet, but I'll come up with something and we'll figure it out. And when we do, it'll be right here on the channel and you'll be along for the ride. We got at least one more. We may have two more. I don't even know how many more. This one I'm not going to talk a ton about because you've already seen this car one time. This is a 1968 Mustang. Early on in the YouTube stuff we done Will It Start on this thing and Will It Run, and it fired right up. It ran good, and just haven't done anything else with it. This car has an interesting story, is that purchased it out of a body shop, and despite the way it looks now, all the body work had been done, all the metal work's been done, all the body work's been done. They done things backwards from what I've done. It's got a brand new vinyl top on it. They hadn't painted it yet, so kind of weird. I'd have painted it, then put the vinyl top on. Not my monkey, not my circus. But this is one that I've got to get up and done and get it out of here, because it's just taking up real estate. This car has a 302 in it. This car is wheel option. This car is AC, power steering, everything you could, every box you could check in 1968, this car checked that box. It's got I think it's Hotchkiss, you know what I'm trying to say. It's got suspension under it. It's got some fancy suspension under it. It's got big sway bars under it. It's got a Holley pump out back. It's got some good parts on it, and it needs to get finished up and out of here. It's a center console car. It really is a sharp, nice car, or has the potential to be. I've got different front and rear valances for it. I've got like the Shelby style valances for it that I can put on it. It really is a nice car, and it really is going to make a nice car, but it's so far down my list of things to do that it just continues to sit here. But it really does need to get some attention and get done, and when it does, again, you'll see it right here on the channel. 1972 Ford Ranchero. Let's walk and talk on this one because it's a long way to the next one. It is what it is. It's a 72 Ford Ranchero. The thing will run, but it has some electrical gremlins, and I'm not a huge fan of electrical stuff, but I need to get it done, get it up and running. There's not much to say about it. It's a 72 Ford Ranchero. It's got a 351 Cleveland in it, automatic. And it's got electrical problems. And got to get around doing electrical stuff. Yeah, well, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Let's look at the next one that's actually physically here. I think is the, yeah, I think is the next one that's actually physically here. This is one that you've actually seen quite a good bit on in the last couple of videos. Here's old Waylon. Sitting here as we try to finish all the little detaily stuff up. Got the fuel line run now. I literally got 2 radiator hoses to put on, alternator, fan belt, and a battery tray. I was gonna move the battery under the bed, but for just getting it done, I'm gonna put it right there right now. And actually, there's a video up of me firing this motor up, so motor fires up and sounds good. All right, so I don't know what order some of these are gonna come in and what order some of them's gonna go out in and all this stuff, but what I can tell you is Waylon's already sitting in here. We're gonna do a good bit to it, but Waylon needs to move outside and the wagon needs to move in because I got about 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks now, to power tour, and the wagon's going on power tour. So it has it has to get done at a certain time or we just don't get to take it, you know. So, and that should not be an option this year. We should be able to go on power tour in that wagon. But I'd like to at least drive it around a little bit and shake down the suspension and all. See if we need to do some alignment issues and all. Waylon, actually the week after power tour is supposed to go to Salem. I'm gonna take her up north. Actually, it's going to Michigan and then Salem. It's got a lot going on too, and we're running out of time on it too. So we'll get back from power tour. I'll be home from power tour literally one day, and then we got to leave to go to Michigan. So both of these need to get done quickly. After these move out, I will start working on that Jeep CJ7 to get some forward progress on that thing and get some things moved along on it, at least try to get the body work, suspension lift and all that done. Try to move that forward a little bit. Everything else, you know, everything else is stuff that I'm not sure what order it's going to come in. Probably after that, I guess, would be the Torino. We need to get that Torino done and get it gone. Maybe even the Mustang after that, but I'm not sure yet. But there's 3 vehicles that you have seen on this channel early on that was not here. They don't actually belong to me. They actually belong to a friend of mine now. The first, if you search way back, you will see a black, well, actually both of them black, so that won't help you none. You'd see a complete unibody short bed that was kind of a flat black color that I went to Georgia and picked up. Wasn't really sure what I was going to do with it. I ended up selling it to a friend of mine, and he has done some work on that truck, and that truck is pretty cool now. Changed it from black to white, but kind of left the patina look to it. I can't explain it, but what I can say is it's a cool looking truck. I'm not going to tell you his plans with that truck, but you will probably see that truck again on the channel because at some point in the future, we're going to pull the Y block out of it and do something different with it. There's been a couple of discussions about what motor will go back in that truck. I don't know yet. The other one you will see is there's need to scratch my ass. The other one you will see that same guy also owns will be I guess the last unibody that you see me bringing here. I've brought several unibodies in here, and so it'll be kind of hard to keep track. But the latest unibody that you've seen on here, I think I brought it in. It didn't have any doors on it. So if you go back and look at that one, I brought it in about a week after I brought the one out there that we just looked at that's been cut up for parts. That one's getting some special stuff done to it. I'm not gonna let you in on the plans on that one yet, but you will see it again because I'm actually building a 410 FE for it. So I will go as far as to say it's getting a 410 and a 4-speed. So it's going to be wicked cool, and it's going to be something you're not going to want to miss because that one is, let's just say that one is over the top right now, and it's only going to elevate it more. Also, if you go way back and look in videos, you will see a 59 Thunderbird that has been on and off here 3 or 4 times. It's been on and off the channel doing different maintenance things to it and different things to it. He drives that thing. That's a daily driver kind of car. You will see that car again here on this channel because as much as we've looked around and tried to find, we can't find any out there. No one makes a set of headers for that car, and it has an exhaust leak, and we want a set of headers. So I have ordered a box of bends, and we have a CNC cut flange. We're gonna build a set of custom headers for a 59 T-Bird. So you're probably gonna, if you're a T-Bird person, you'll probably want to see that because we're basically gonna lay out the blueprint for a set of headers for a 59 T-Bird, which not a lot of people have done, I don't think. They're just not out there, at least not that we can find. So that is coming, and you at some point that is coming, and you'll get to see that. So that is a quick rundown of the projects around here. Those are things that you will be seeing coming up. At some point, all those things that we just walked around and looked at will be on the channel at some point. So we have a lot of great content coming, and you'll see that if you get subscribed. You can hit the little bell so you get notifications, but you will see that coming. Speaking of subscribers, we have a goal in mind to hit 1,000 subscribers, and we're very close to that goal. So if you have not subscribed yet, please do so. Hit that subscribe button and help us out. It will allow us to put out all this content. And what I would really like to do is find a way to use these projects to give back to the community a little bit. And we're working on some ideas for that. I'm not sure yet which one of these ideas that we're gonna go with, but we're working on some ideas for that. But it only works if we can hit that 1,000 number. So we got to get up to 1,000 subscribers to do that. So if any of these projects interest you, if any of these projects are something that you would like to see, stay tuned to the channel. They're coming. Plus at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 engine builds. 6, because that one back there. So at least 6. Oh shit, that one's sitting right there too. 7. A lot of engine builds. A lot of engine builds. There's a lot of engines here. We got a lot of engines to build. So if you're into that kind of content, and as always on this channel, we try to keep it as budget as possible. We're getting the most out of it as possible. And we try to show people how not to spend a fortune to get to their end goal. So if that's the kind of things you're into, then please follow along with the channel. Hope you enjoy the content. I'll ask again, please hit the subscribe button. God bless y'all. I hope the Lord bless you more today than he did yesterday. And guys, stay tuned because it's about to be a whirlwind of content, especially in the next couple of weeks getting ready for Power Tour. So Love you guys. Please subscribe. Please help us grow the channel. We'll see you next time.
I'd say he's a nut job.